Hey, Eddie. Didn't know I was going to find you here today.
What's up, Foo?
The roof, the sky, our collective hopes and dreams.
You seem unusually deep today.
Why not? Why do we go through the tedious motions of hellos and goodbyes? Think about your average conversation. The vacant use of language it embodies. How are you? Great? That's great. I'm great too. Half the time we're advertising our characteristics, comforting ourselves by lying about ourselves to others.
So what? I'd rather be blanketed by a million empty conversations with the monotonous hellos and goodbyes, rather than sit through those conversations and have the audacity to call themselves deep. Because one party, usually some girl, is disclosing the tragic truth about her relationship and her take on life after that relationship to another party, i.e. me.
So you prefer those power conversations with the power words. You know what I'm talking about. Hey Bob, I think we can definitely broaden the scope of our vision by effectively utilizing blah blah blah. Jesus Christ. There's nothing I hate more than the word utilize. Such a bullshit word.
I'd say that you illustrated your point rather effectively. But then let's consider most conversations. To a degree, most require us to make a judgment on other human beings. When we talk about people we know in good or bad ways, when we talk about women, our own lives, or how something is just fucked up. That's just a conversation when we complain. Man, Sam's a douchebag. Yeah, he totally fucked us over on that construction job. And then we bolster ourselves by saying, yeah, we'd never do that. Or even if we talk about sports. Everything is essentially our commentary on others.
Not if we talk about our ideas.
Not if we talk about our ideas, I suppose. But there's a limit. Every idea has some practical usage. I'm sure you've heard of the expression, all theory, no practice. And all practical usage is predicated upon people.
Not if we're talking about math and science. I mean, you tell me, how can I possibly connect that douchebag Sam to molecular orbital theory?
Okay, you got me. But, I don't know. It seems to me that an organic conversation about math or science is impossible. Math and science are objective studies, and every time we begin talking about either, we run into a huge subjective brick wall, because the ideas we posit are in themselves completely based on our emotional investments.
Are you an atheist? You don't want to embrace the spiritual and scientific overlap that's so prevalent.
Are you a creationist?
I'm not, actually.
So, are you religious? Or wait, are you an intelligent designist? They should have named that bullshit practice something catchier, like Christian Science. Actually, I think they have that already. Then maybe it should be called what it really is, mental diarrhea.
So, despite the complexity of our existence, the way that everything just fits together, the way that we can manipulate the world, from the atom to our own muscles, how we can heal people and build super small stuff. You don't find that amazing?
I don't think we've been divinely guided. For all our good things, we are inherently violent, aren't we? Every time we've created tools for something positive, we found a way to use those very tools to harm our fellow human being. We've heeded the call of globalization to put more money into our pockets. Wouldn't true globalization require a sacrifice to be made on our part to improve the lives of others?
Of course it does, but I'm not sure that we want to make that sacrifice. It's hard to form an attachment with people around the world. When our leaders say that we want to spread democracy, no one cares. No one cares about anything going on in Africa. Honest to God, I think that more people would support our government if they told us that we need to go to war to get oil to lower gas prices than if they tell us that we need to go to war to stop a genocide.
It's like that line in Hotel Rwanda where the UN guy tells Don Cheadle the world doesn't care because the people are black. By the way, I am using a euphemism. We feel for people. I'm not saying we don't empathize. The closer we are to a situation, the more likely we are to help out. But usually, it's financial. It's easy when it's financial. You feel bad, and you want to fix a situation, but you don't want to feel overburdened. But the hard part is actually doing something. That's why I'm still convinced that people are inherently selfish and destructive.
I can't. How can you live in a world like that?
Just moving along with it. Self-interest doesn't necessarily hurt me on a daily basis. That's pretty much how our economy functions. It becomes our responsibility to placate others with the expected courtesy we want to be treated with. This also stems from self-interest. Why do you think we treat strangers with greater courtesy than people we know well? Reciprocation. Why else are there so many rich pricks?
But what about all the heroes? I can't begin to list off the people who sacrifice themselves for others. According to your theory, they're sacrificing themselves because they want to look good. And do you think they'll receive reciprocation? Your first assumption essentially negates that there will be an act of reciprocation because man is too selfish to help anyone else.
You raise a fine point, but no more than a chink in my theory, an abstraction. Now, before I move on, please understand, I do not espouse the popular and ubiquitous notion of man having a dual nature of good and evil. I have already made clear my opinion of man, but now I must advocate a principle which I would rather not promote to defend my theory. Man's conscience is rooted in his brain, yet for some reason correlated with religion. Religion, which in my opinion is a man-made institution, has instilled many moral virtues and values. It seems to me that many of these so-called tenets of religion are acquirable through reason and intuition. Nevertheless, these tenets religion has succeeded in monopolizing and claiming as its own, and people have attributed divine meaning to derivable ideas. However, religion encapsulates many more laws than the basic don't murder.
And your point is?
I'm sorry, I'm getting there. Under the veil of a vengeful God, religion has caused people to create specialized styles. We know that honoring our parents is the right thing to do, but what about dietary laws?
I eat what I want, and I don't see anything in the Bible against that.
I'm not talking about Christianity, but sure, let's take Catholicism. What about eating a cracker and becoming blind after masturbating? That stuff is just as legitimate as do not bear false witness. The point is that we're so transfixed by some of the reasonable laws that we have to take the other laws by default. But why, if they're so unreasonable? Fear, maybe? Whatever it is. Religion drives a person to do many crazy things, and I think that includes saving others in evil times.
So you're saying that religious people, truly religious, are the exceptions to the rule, but there are many devout believers in the world, are there not? Just look at the Holocaust and other recent genocides. I'm sure most of Germany was religious, but just a small number stepped up to save others.
That is the very paradox of religion, and the suggestion of my thesis. Man is hypocritical. Let me bring out Judaism. It's got strict dietary laws. In Judaism, you are given restraints on the most base natures. You can guess them.
Sex? I guess we already said eating.
Right. So, pretty much, you can't eat milk and meat together, and you're not allowed to touch a person of the opposite sex until you get married.
Shit.
Shit is right. So, which do you think more people break?
I don't know, cheeseburgers are hard to give up. But it's gotta be the touching.
No shit. I mean, it's a contradiction, isn't it? God cares equally about both, but I'd argue that touching is a greater restraint than not eating a Big Mac.
Right, but it's hard. I mean, I don't think they want to. And I still think they have good intentions. You know, they still believe in God.
I don't doubt that they believe in God, but their degree of belief, and anyone's degree of belief, varies. It's not static. I'm not saying everyone. I'm sure there are people who break that rule. There are truly pious people in every religion. But how can a priest consciously molest a child and think that it's right? People can justify and rationalize everything and vary their level of religiosity to suit them.
But is that better than no belief at all? Having the cocky nature that there is nothing above you can be misinterpreted as meaning, I can do whatever the hell I want.
That's true. In the long run, people acquire a belief in something greater than them. At least in situations of grief and moral ambiguity, they can turn to something higher.
But do you think there is a God?
I'm not entirely sure. I think some people, can live without God, and they can be the best, most moral people around. Of course, others can be assholes and pricks. I've thought that it takes tremendous development to become independent of God, because the idea is constantly hammered into our brains. So, with that development, comes an enlightened comprehension of behavior.
But most people can't reach that. And if you take away God, I think there will be moral anarchy.
To an extent, I agree with you. For all our technological developments, we still rely on the big man in the sky to point his finger and tell us what to do.
You've made your point there.
That's something we all strive to do. Is it not? Right.